So I'm making this video to demonstrate how I have personally apply speed management and descent planning in my 1978 A36 Bonanza here with the IO550B. This is not my airplane, so I try to treat it as best as I possibly can as if it were my own airplane. And part of that is engine management and descent planning in order to be as gentle as practically possible flying this airplane. So let's start with the initial descent here. I'm at 4,500 feet in cruise on the way to John Wayne Airport, about 20 miles from the airport right now over Dana Point Harbor. In just a minute, you'll see I'm going to reduce the power from 23 inches manifold pressure down to about 20 inches. This is my normal descent profile. I typically like to reduce or eliminate high power changes more than 2 or 3 inches at a time. No particular reason for this aside from it's more comfortable for me. Making small power changes in this airplane has a big effect. I'm not too worried about rapid cylinder cooling. When you push the nose down and start throwing a whole lot of air in, it doesn't really matter what your power setting is. It's going to start cooling down pretty rapidly anyway. So you can see I've pulled the power back now to 20 inches. We've started our descent. My head's kind of blocking the airspeed indicator, but we were cruising about 150-ish knots indicated. We're doing this initial descent at 160. So what I've done, I've reduced that power setting in order to kind of help the nose come down and to allow us to descend at a faster rate. And I've also pushed the nose down even a little bit more beyond what was the previously trimmed airspeed in order to establish that expedited descent rate. This airplane, 20 inches for a normal descent rate, typically 500 to 800 feet per minute is standard. That's what I try to shoot for. But it doesn't always work. Sometimes you have to work with air traffic and terrain considerations. John Wayne's pretty straightforward just simply because I'm used to it at this point. The airplane's based there, and I've been flying this airspace for over 1,000 hours now. So the plan here is to cross Signal Peak at approximately 2,000 feet. I actually wind up crossing it a little bit higher on this particular approach to the airport, but that's the usual procedure that I have. Pattern altitude for the downwind for runway 20 left of John Wayne is 850 feet for a single engine airplane, so that's typically what I try to fly. I sometimes wind up high on this airplane just because of the way I do my descents, but usually it's only 50 to 100 feet high, well within the reasonable range for what you'd expect out of a high-performance airplane like this. Feet to go now for the intended crossing altitude at Signal Peak for 2,000 feet. At this point I'm starting to see that, okay, I might wind up being a little bit high on the profile, just from a judgment call sort of thing. I know this airplane can come down in a hurry if I needed to. I had to do that in Montgomery Field where I was just coming back from. But it's better to have the power back coming into an airport like John Wayne where I'm going to keep the pattern in nice and tight. And I've definitely now assessed at this point that, okay, I'm going to wind up a little bit high here on the profile. I've brought the power back to about 18 inches. I pushed the nose down a little bit more. So now I'm going to be hovering just below VNO, the normal operating speed of this airplane, about 166 knots. I'm going to be hovering just below that, staying in the green arc, but increasing the descent rate down to about 800, 900 feet per minute. talking about mindset going forward into the pattern here, I'm flying a very, very, very fast airplane for the size of airplane that it is, for what air traffic control expects of you. You're expected to be able to fit into the pattern with 172s and helicopters and light sports and things like that, which are all doing, you know, at maximum probably about 100 knots on the downwind. You'll see when I join the downwind in this airplane, I'm still doing 160 to 165 knots, which is pretty standard operating procedure for me. I like to keep this airplane fast. It's easy to do it, and it likes to stay fast. So the way that I manage that is I can configure early to keep the speed where I want it. This airplane has a very high gear speed. The gear limit is 153 knots. I usually use 150 just to keep it simple. But the flap speed's relatively low. The flap speed's only 123 knots. I use 120 just to keep that simple as well. Because of that disparity between gear and flap speed, you basically have to use the gear as a big speed brake unless you want to throw the prop forward or use the throttle and pull the throttle all the way back or things like that. So I typically use the gear as a speed brake on the downwind when I'm doing my initial slowing to mix up the pattern. But occasionally I'll use it as an assist to descend at a higher rate as well at a lower airspeed. So coming up on the pattern now, we're joining the downwind nice and far out. Still doing about 160 knots here as the air starts to get a little bit rougher. This is still well within my comfortable range above maneuvering speed. So I've flown through some pretty nasty turbulence in this airplane, and it does just fine above maneuvering speed. Joining the downwind now, my plan is to start slowing down. I typically fly between a half to a 3/4 mile downwind in this airplane. When you put the gear out, it really likes to come out of the sky. It has no trouble descending. So you can see I haven't adjusted the power at all. I'm still at 18 inches, but as I'm leveling off, my speed's falling below that gear range. I'm through 150 knots right about now. My right hand reaches over the gear, and down it goes. You can hear the gear motor running. That's what I'm going to use as my primary descent, and then I'm going to reduce the power just a little bit more here in a second to about 15 inches. There it goes. And I reduced it actually a little bit beyond 15 in this particular case. That's about landing power there for what I use, 12 to 13 inches. This airplane I like to approach with some power in and cross the numbers with some power in just to assist in keeping the nose up. Very heavy nose on this airplane, even with the big elevator that it has. So as we're turning in, you'll notice it's one continuous turn from the downwind to final. It's not ideal as far as the airplane flying handbook and the PHAC will tell you to do. This airplane, I feel it's a little bit more comfortable, especially with the poor glide characteristics with the gear down. And right about now, I'm starting to feed in some flaps. I treat flaps in this airplane as all or nothing. I go from 0 all the way to full, just because it's a momentary select switch, so I can either hold it or put it in the down position, the flaps come all the way down, or they come all the way up. But notice, the power really hasn't changed much. I'm back up about 13 inches now, and the power is going to come all the way idle across the numbers in this case because I'm trying to make a short field approach. There you go. On centerline, easy touchdown. I'm actually going to drift off centerline a little bit here because I was having a dilemma with air traffic control whether they wanted me to continue all the way down the runway and hold short of the taxiway down there, or make the back taxi 180-degree turn and exit at Juliet. In the end, the controller decides that he wants me to go down and hold short of Hotel while the aircraft crosses from right to left in front of us. I need to make the right turn on Hotel to go back to parking, so it was going to be a conflict either way. Thanks for watching and joining me on this introduction to high performance speed management. Be sure to stay tuned. I'll be posting another video here with a slightly different execution of the same ideas.